Hello everyone, I'm Kathy Powers, Superintendent with the Twinsburg City School District. Welcome to Twinsburg Schools Today. Well, as you can tell by how I appear, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we're so very grateful to the support of our community, our staff members, and of course our students who are working together, working really hard to make sure that our learning environment, whether on campus or virtual, is healthy and safe for everyone. Today's show is all about blended learning. And as you know, blended learning was a huge initiative authorized by our Board of Education 2 years ago. But blended learning has changed over this pandemic's period of time. And today we're going to talk just a little bit about how blended learning is being implemented in our classrooms today. And then we're going to have a look back to how it was implemented last school year. So to begin, I'd like to introduce our guests. I have Jennifer Farthing, our Director of Curriculum. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Powers.
I have Beth Mariola, our Supervisor of Innovative Programs.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. And I have Lauren Fenning, our Blended Learning Coach. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Jen, if you could just start by explaining to our audience just a little bit about blended learning, because I know it goes into greater detail in the rest of our show today. But what is blended learning? And then we're going to talk about how it has changed because of the pandemic.
Blended learning allows our students to work at their own pace and path, and they have the ability to work in different stations, and they will work at their own level and move along. So the 4 stations are independent practice, digital content, future ready, and also a mini lesson. So our students are working on those individual areas, and the teacher is working usually in a mini lesson at that point in time.
So we introduced blended learning with those concepts, now it would have been 3 years ago.
Wow.
And with the COVID-19 pandemic, our staff members and our students had to quickly pivot out. And when we pivoted out, blended learning has a different look to it right now. Mrs. Mirala, can you explain what it looks like now versus what it looked like last school year?
Sure. In a typical classroom for blended learning last school year and the year before that, we really redesigned the space, and we bought furniture. The Board of Education supported us in buying flexible furniture where students were able to collaborate, and there was very much fluid movement around the room. This year it's changed significantly due to the spacing and the lack of physical collaboration. So what we've tried to do this year is really focus on collaborating in a different sense. So we would collaborate virtually more so than physically. So that's what we're working on very significantly, using the Chromebooks and just some really unique ways of being able to collaborate differently and creatively think differently about the ways in which instruction looks.
And of course, thanks to the Board of Education's support this year, every student has a Chromebook that has been issued by the district.
Absolutely. PK through 12, all of our students now have Chromebooks, so it's a one-to-one environment.
And how does that benefit a blended learning classroom?
So it's twofold. I would say first and foremost, for the pandemic purposes, we're able to turn on a dime. We're able to go out, should we need to flip to a complete virtual space, then we can do that immediately. The secondary piece of it, how does it look? Every student has access right there. So we used to run a digital station. Now every student has digital capabilities right there in the classrooms.
That's great. And Lauren, as a primary teacher who implemented blended learning in your classroom, you were at the forefront of making sure that this initiative was launched well and moved forward. With the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic, how has your role as the blended learning coach changed? And second to that is, with the students who had blended learning last school year or the year prior, how able were they to adapt to this remote learning platform that we found ourselves in last spring?
With our blended learning classrooms, we infused technology, and that was a big role that I had in the last few years, was to help teachers really incorporate that technology. And with COVID and everything going on and one-to-one, it's been my main role to help not just the cohorts, but all of the teachers incorporate, specifically K through 6 for me and 7 through 12 for Beth, incorporate that technology in their own classrooms, not only just giving them training, but teaching how to train the students. So that's been a very, very big role of mine.
When we pivoted out last spring, we had cohorts of students and teachers already engaged in blended learning. Did blended learning help, or the strategies of blended learning help the students continue to be successful as they learned remotely from home?
We have found students are very confident in using Chromebooks and technology who have been a part of the blended learning program. They were able to, with ease, move right into that blended learning, the at-home virtual environment, as well as the teachers, because they had already been trained and taught and had been using Chromebooks and that technology.
Jen, so you're at the forefront of everything regarding professional development here in our district for our certificated staff members. And we know that in order to launch an initiative such as blended learning, it took a lot of professional development that was actually focused on the cohorts of teachers that stood up and said, yes, I want to do this in my classrooms. How has professional development changed to support blended learning in this pandemic era where we have some teachers and students on campus and some who are being taught virtually by our wonderful staff in the district?
Our professional development did have to change some, and we have also relied on our blended learning cohort of teachers. It just naturally, they were kind of looked to in their grade level as someone who was ready for the challenge and able to help. This year we spent the first 2 weeks of school getting our professional development together for our staff members so they were ready for whatever instruction looked like this school year. Because every day it can look a little bit differently. One other thing that I would like to mention is some of our teachers who were in the cohorts in the first 2 years chose the virtual teaching option, and I think it was because that was their comfort level and they thought they were up to that challenge of working with our students in the Twinsburg Virtual Academy, and they in turn have helped their other colleagues in the Virtual Academy be prepared with the technology that they need to be ready to use with their students.
Well, I'm so grateful to the work of the three of you, and I know just last winter we talked about doing a Twinsburg Schools Today show all about blended learning because we were so excited about this new initiative because it was working and our kids were succeeding and our teachers were so motivated and enthusiastic. So we are very delighted today to present to our audience a little bit about blended learning in the Twinsburg City School District. Please know that it changes a little bit because of the fact that we're in a pandemic, but the principles of blended learning will continue here even during COVID-19. We hope that you enjoy our show.
An exciting instructional transformation is happening within the Twinsburg City School District through the introduction of blended learning.
All school districts in our nation have the responsibility of preparing their students for successful futures. In the Twinsburg City School District, we own that responsibility. We know that we need to bring many opportunities to our students so that they have all the skills that they need to be successful adults. To that end, we're so excited to present to you today a new initiative called Blended Learning. Blended Learning is all through the Twinsburg City School District, and it's providing opportunities for our students to learn the important skills of collaboration, of communication, of harnessing the power of technology, of making great decisions and working as teams. And we are excited to share with you, our residents and our community members, some information about how blended learning is changing the face of education in the Twinsburg City School District. We have excellent educators here in the Twinsburg City School District, and one of the things that we are committed to doing for our teachers is to provide for them high-quality professional development. Following a session in October of 2018, Ms. Lauren Fenning was so excited and so motivated by what she had heard about blended learning that she wanted to implement some of those strategies with her 6th grade boys and girls at George D. Dodge Intermediate School. And so she began to do that, and as the success began to rise with her students, other teachers became very interested and motivated about what was happening in Miss Fenning's classroom, as well as the classroom of her partner teacher, Mrs. Carla Haas. We are so excited that this initiative is being teacher-driven, that our educators are very excited about bringing high-quality education instructional practices into the classrooms, because we know that it is going to prepare our students to be future-ready and to be successful adults.
My first experience of blended learning was at a district-wide professional development day, where I sat and listened to a speaker share about students taking ownership in their learning and how to take technology and use it in a way that excites students to collaborate, communicate, and create. And so I took this back to my classroom and shared it with my students, and we changed the face of my classroom. We made a classroom where the students had areas to learn. We had a place where they worked on the floor, a place where they worked up on high tables. We had a place where they worked in small groups at their desks. The students were a part of this with me, and that made it so exciting to me, because when they came in their classroom, they were proud. And they actually wanted other people to come in and see what their classroom looked like. I found that this helped create ownership in their learning as well. So not only did the environment change, but their desire to own what they're learning, to take hold of their own pathway of learning, was just the most exciting thing I've seen as a teacher.
Blended learning takes the traditional classroom and blends it with technology to create an environment where students take ownership of their learning. The blended learning classroom is divided into 4 distinct learning studios: the mini lesson, digital content, future ready, and independent practice. This unique classroom design allows students to learn at their own pace and teachers to use technology to customize content for each unique learner.
The beauty of blended learning is that the students are engaged for an entire lesson. If you walk into a blended learning classroom, hopefully you don't see as the focal point the teacher. You might have to look around to find the teacher, because there are students that are learning from each other, they're engaged in different activities.
An integral part of the blended learning classroom is time spent with the teacher at a mini lesson. This small group, targeted instruction provides an environment for students to build strong relationships and receive instruction at their level.
Well, a mini lesson has 2 components. One for the students, which I think that they are more engaged in class, because I'm sitting at a table with 6 kids. They have to be engaged. They can't sit back and passively learn, because we're having a conversation just like you might have around your dinner table. I'm making sure that everybody's participating, that they're building off each other's ideas. The kids are hearing what others are saying, and they're building off of that. For the teacher, I'm getting immediate feedback from them where they need help, where they need stretch, where I can help them grow, where I can probe them a little bit deeper. And so I can do that right away when I have them in just a small group, as opposed to a whole classroom where there might be 5 or 6 kids who I'm getting feedback from, but there's several other kids that might be hearing it and might not, and I'm not hearing all that from them in a bigger classroom.
We have 2 questions that we're looking at today, and you've already looked at these questions, right? And the first one says, how does Renetta Rojas feel about visiting the Titanic? And it's really important that we are looking for 2 things when we're doing a written question like this.
When I group kids for a mini lesson, it's going to be different today than it might be tomorrow. I might find a group of students who are really struggling with main idea in language arts, and so I'm just going to pull those kids and we're going to talk about the main idea and the read aloud that we're doing in class, and really help them with that. The other kids, I saw that they got it. They don't need that particular lesson that day. Another day I group them by kids that are going to work together well, because later after the mini lesson they're going to go and do a collaborative lesson, and I need those 5 together. And so my mini lesson might prep them for that collaboration effort that they're going to do. Other times I might group them just because of computer usage, because we share computers and I might need these people to be on computers, and so I can meet with the other kids for mini lessons.
Independent practice is a simple but important part of the blended learning classroom. This is where students have the opportunity to work at their own pace, to practice and apply their newly acquired knowledge, demonstrate understanding, and apply concepts in meaningful ways.
There's an independent station that provides them the opportunity to practice the skill that they're learning for the day. Doesn't mean that they have to work alone 100% of the time. If they're having a hard time, they can work with a partner, but it's a time for them really to hone in on that skill and make sure that they master it. And there are times when they don't master it and they need me again to work with them, and that's another great benefit of blended learning, that I can come around at the end of the lesson and help students where they are.
The Future Ready Learning Studio is one in which students are challenged to collaborate, create, communicate, and think critically. These soft skills are essential as we prepare students for future success.
In a Future Ready Studio, students are working together in a small group to collaborate, create, communicate, and to think critically with one another. So they're coming up with ideas to show mastery in their learning and to apply the skills that we have learned for the day. We've had students build Google Sites that are tutorials for other students. We've had students create videos, green screen videos, funny plays to demonstrate their learning. We've had students reach out and Skype scientists and learn in that way. This is so exciting because the students own what they're showing that they've learned, and they're excited about it because they're working in a way that meets their needs and their learning styles, what they enjoy to do.
Within the Digital Content Learning Studio, you'll see students working on Chromebooks or other technology to either enrich the lesson they've learned for the day or to remediate and practice the skills they need to work on. The instantaneous feedback obtained from the digital content is critical not only to the teachers as they design lessons, but also to the students as they're able to track their own progress and take ownership of their learning.
The thing I love about digital content is that you can do something that you can't normally do just in a classroom with a piece of paper. There's a variety of different things, such as videos, Edpuzzle, and Seesaw, and it's like very interactive and it's fun.
I really do like digital content because it's on our Chromebook and we get to explore and do our own learning on our own. Another reason I really do like digital content is because sometimes there's group work. Well, not group work, but you have to answer questions on a video and they can really help you learn some stuff.
Well, it's on our Chromebooks and it's online, so it gives us a chance to kind of be independent. There's many platforms that we use, including Freckle, Seesaw, stuff like that, and it gives us a variety of stuff that we can answer and passages to read and answer questions and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool.
I like digital content because it allows me to use a Chromebook instead of a paper pencil. And I enjoy when we do Seesaw, which is an activity where you record yourself in a video or just your voice, or you can create a drawing where you can express an answer in many different ways.
One of the most beneficial aspects of the blended learning environment is the ability for teachers to instantly collect data through technology. This data helps teachers create individual pathways for student success.
In my third grade classroom, I'm able to use data to drive my instruction in many ways. We take a pre-assessment before we begin new concepts, which is very helpful because it kind of gives us just, that baseline data that we need to know where are they at. Some of them, if we start, say, fractions, they already have a lot of those basic concepts down, so we're able to challenge them more. Whereas some students, they need some of those basics definitely reinforced, right at the beginning to kind of help them get that leg up that they're going to need. We're able to use data from different kinds of internet resources that we have now. So Freckle is a big one that we have in the district, which is such a wonderful resource. So we're able to use the data that we have from that, and students are able to kind of work at their own level because it's adaptive, which is very helpful. So it's no longer a this is where we're all going to be working on, this skill. So sometimes we can do it that way, but as the main part of what we're doing with the internet resources. It's kind of just wherever they're at, which really helps them kind of keep progressing at their own pace, and kind of just gives them that support that they need. I mean, it's so empowering because they know how they're doing now. You know, they know, like, okay, well, when I'm really focused during Future Ready and digital content, then it helps me do better when I take things like assessments, you know, so I want to make sure that I'm getting those things done and I'm trying my hardest. So it, again, I mean, it just makes them feel like they know what's expected. They know more of, like, you know, when I work harder, then I do better. So it makes them more motivated to do things because they see, you know, how it impacts them when they are taking those assessments later on.
We meet once a week on Fridays, and students bring their folders and complete them. And then we have a little goal setting sheet that we go through and we talk about different aspects. Did they complete their work neatly? We're looking at, did they use uppercase and lowercase letters? Did they color neatly? Did they follow the directions accurately? Were they working independently? If they needed help, did they ask a peer? Did they follow all the directions? And then we take that, and from that we set their weekly goals. And we have a goal setting board, and they know during the week to check in on that goal setting board. And then from that we input that data into a Google Sheet that we track, and we can share with parents how their progress is going throughout the year. And then each student also has a data notebook that when they complete a goal, say counting to 100, or they move up a reading level, they sit down with me and they take the opportunity to color in and track their own goals. I get to have the opportunity every week to sit down and have an individual meeting with each kiddo, and we talk and we bond and we build those connections, and we really work towards those goals that they have.
Blended learning classrooms meet the needs of all learners by presenting students with content using 4 different modalities. Co-teaching is the pairing of a general education teacher with a special education teacher to create an inclusive environment for all our students. And the blended learning classroom enhances the co-teaching experiences for our kids.
As an intervention specialist, I have provided instruction and intervention in a variety of classroom settings, and I've seen firsthand the benefits of doing blended learning in the general education classroom. Working with the classroom teacher, the general education teacher, and I can collaborate as co-teachers to the next level. Through blended learning, we're able to embed accommodations within the classroom, provide targeted instruction and differentiation for the students within our groupings, provide those sensory and movement breaks within the 4 stations, and appeal to the multimodal approach that many of our students need.
As the curriculum director, blended learning has been able to help us meet our curricular needs. It's just a different way of doing things. We're still teaching the same standards, but the students are more engaged with them. They can take ownership for them. And there are some instances where our students can test out. So they already know those standards and they're moving on. And blended learning is allowing the teachers to take the learning and individualize it for our students, and they can move on at their own pace. And we're still meeting all of the same standards, it's just being done in a slightly different method.
Flexible furniture is an important aspect to Twinsburg's blended learning environment. Having choices for students to decide where they work best not only improves achievement, but it also reflects and prepares them for the modern workplace they'll soon enter.
We have all different age groups working here, from millennials to not millennials, myself. And they all work a little bit differently, and they all have different habits, and they have different things that really create more passion for them or allow them to be more productive than maybe they would be in a different environment. Again, we believe that low-walled, collaborative, transparent environment is really the baseline, and then from there, things can get tweaked and or changed in order to really support how people are deciding to work. We've added some quiet rooms over the years that allow, just a private area for anybody to go to have a phone call or to have a small meeting. And they're located outside of the workspace area, right? So you're working in one particular area, and then we have all these other communal areas that allow for other activities to take place. The goal at the end of the day is to have, each employee having some job satisfaction and feeling really good about what they do and why they do it, and in turn what that usually means is they're just happier and they're more productive.
Professional development provides teachers with the skills they need to implement blended learning within their classrooms. This professional development and support is very important as teachers transform their instruction, moving away from the traditional whole group instruction to the blended learning model.
The most moving part of blended learning for me, and the exciting part of blended learning, has been the ability to partner with teachers, specifically Mrs. Fenning and anyone who's stepped forward to try a blended learning lesson within their classroom. It's been so powerful to sit next to somebody who's excited and wants to create a learning environment for students in which, you know, you're considering their modalities, where we need to enrich them from an instructional and content area standpoint, and where we need to go back and maybe slow down the pace a bit and revisit some concepts so that they have a deep understanding and a depth of knowledge that is like no other, so that they can be successful in the curriculum and in life.
When Superintendent Kathy Powers received the 2019 Ohio Superintendent Outstanding Performance Award by the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation, the $10,000 grant that accompanied the award went toward blended learning professional development. This commitment by the school board, administration, and staff is driving the blended learning model as the future of education in the Twinsburg City School District.
Classrooms of today are so very different from the classrooms that you and I might have participated in as children growing up in our experiences. In order to change the face of education, we need to provide high-quality professional development to our teachers. I am so very grateful to the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation for their generous support of our professional development opportunity with regard to blended learning. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Twinsburg Board of Education for their continued support of this exciting initiative. We believe that blended learning will be one of the tools that boys and girls are going to use as they make decisions as to what career path they are going to embark upon. We are excited about blended learning. We believe that this is going to make a huge difference in the lives of our children, and we thank you for your continued support of the Twinsburg City School District. We hope you've enjoyed a look inside our blended learning classrooms here in the Twinsburg City School District. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our educators, our teachers, administrators, as well as the classified staff members who support blended learning in all of our initiatives every day here in our district. Indeed, school looks very different this year, whether students are on campus or they're learning in our virtual academy. Regardless, we're very proud of the efforts of our educators, our classified members of our staff, and very appreciative of our community. Please be sure that you stay tuned to our district website, where we'll continue to have information for our community, as well as our partners at Community Focus. We hope you have a great day.